In our last lesson, we learnt about how the European societies were prior to the revolutions that broke out throughout Europe in the 19th century. Now, in this lesson, we will be focusing on what happened in Europe after the fall of Napoleon. We learned that Napoleon believed that he was an embodiment of the ideals of the French Revolution. He helped to spread the ideas of liberty, equality and fraternity as well as nationalistic sentiments throughout Europe. But what happened after his defeat in 1815? In the same year, that is in 1815, the representatives of Britain, Russia, Prussia and Austria, all those regions, all those countries that had together defeated Napoleon, now met at Vienna to conclude the Treaty of Vienna. So all these territorial units like the United Kingdom of Great Britain, Prussia, Austrian Empire, Russian Empire met at Vienna, and they were to decide what was to be the fate of Europe after the defeat of Napoleon in 1815. Before proceeding with this lesson, let me ask you a question. In which year was the Treaty of Vienna concluded? Was it concluded in 1814, 1815, 1816 or in 1818? Well, the correct answer is 1815. It was after the defeat of Napoleon that the Treaty of Vienna was concluded. Now, this Vienna Congress of 1815 was hosted by the Austrian Chancellor Clemens von Metternich. And it was in this Vienna Congress that Britain, Russia, Prussia and Austria decided to undo all the changes that were brought about by the Napoleonic Wars. Now, during his rule as the Emperor of France from 1804, Napoleon had brought about many changes throughout Europe. Firstly, he kept on controlling more and more regions. He brought all these regions under the direct or indirect control of France. So it was in this Vienna Congress that these winning parties now decided what to do with the future of Europe, and at the same time they also sought to remove all traces of the Napoleonic Wars by undoing all the changes. Now, during this time, after the Vienna Congress, the Bourbon dynasty was restored to power. Now, let us briefly talk about the territorial settlements that happened after the defeat of Napoleon. Now, after Napoleon was defeated, France was severely weakened because of its erstwhile dictatorial rule. And so, Britain, Prussia, Russia, Austria were simply on the winning sides. They were much more powerful than France was. France, as a result of this, kept on losing its territories. So immediately after the fall of Napoleon, many national boundaries were redrawn. And let us now look at how territorial settlements were made at this point of time. Now, the Bourbon dynasty was abolished by Napoleon, and soon after his defeat, this Bourbon dynasty was once again restored to power. At the same time, many new national boundaries were drawn around France so that French occupation in foreign regions could be completely controlled. Now, on its northern side, Netherlands, that included Belgium, was given power. And on its southern side, Piedmont now included Genoa. Now, Prussia, Austria, Russia made major territorial gains. Prussia was given a part of Saxony, while Austrian Empire was given a part of northern Italy. Then a part of Poland was given to Russia. So in this way, so many territorial settlements were made, and France was clearly on the losing side because France was being locked from all the sides. These all powers now sought to curb and suppress France in all possible ways because they were afraid that the French ideas of liberty, equality and fraternity could keep on threatening their stability. Now, these powers did not simply want to revoke or revive the existent monarchical rule. Instead, they wanted to strengthen their rule, and by making these new territorial settlements, by redrawing these national boundaries, these winning powers like Netherlands, Austria, Russia or even Prussia were able to control France. Now, France found it very difficult to navigate the political relations at this point of time. Now, when these new powers became even more powerful, they did not really want to go back to the existent monarchical setup. What they wanted to do was strengthen the symbols and institutions of power like the monarchy, like the church, like the state. How could they do so? They wanted to bring about new modern changes so that the existent institutions could be strengthened. At the same time, by improving the army, by further giving strength to the bureaucracy, by strengthening the currency, these powers were once again able to control major parts of Europe. And these powers were conservative in nature. Now, what do we understand by this concept of conservatism? By conservatism, we understand an emphasis on the traditional hierarchies in society. Now, conservative autocratic governments resist changes. Instead, there are only a certain number of people who get to hold power in the government. Not all people are given the authority or the power to run or have a country running. And so these conservative autocratic governments now gained ground in post-1815 Europe. These conservative governments were completely against the ideals of liberty, equality and fraternity, because they knew that if the masses were given individual liberty, if they were all considered equal, if they were not stripped of their agency, their independence, then conservative autocratic governments could be threatened. So, in one way or the other, Europe was back to where it was prior to the French Revolution itself. So, the French Revolution and Napoleon's rule temporarily shook the foundation of these autocratic governments. But immediately after the defeat of Napoleon in 1815, these autocratic governments once again resurfaced and they started gaining power. In these conservative governments, criticism and dissent were strictly addressed, because these conservative autocratic governments thrived on the suppression of individual agency, on the stripping of individuals' autonomy. Because if the individuals started criticizing the conservative government's policies, started posing a challenge and threat to the conservative governments, then those governments would be destabilized. And so in every possible way, by applying censorship laws, criticism and dissent were completely suppressed. So various kinds of songs, writings, essays, manifestos, which could pose a challenge to these conservative autocratic governments were completely effaced or removed out of existence. So the ideals of the French Revolution that ensured the masses their freedom of speech and expression were completely nullified once again by these autocratic governments. What we see here is an anonymous caricature dating back to 1820, and it's called the Club of Thinkers. Now here we see two boards. The first board here reads, how long will thinking be allowed? So the masses were questioning because they did not really have it in their power to think and voice and express their opinions. Now here is a list of the rules that the members of this club are supposed to abide by. The first one reads, silence is the first commandment of this learned society. The second one reads, to avoid the eventuality of the members succumbing to the temptation of expression, temptation of speech, muzzles will be delivered to all the members upon their entry. So this caricature here rightly sums up the political and cultural atmosphere that was prevalent in Europe after the defeat of Napoleon. The masses were muzzled, so to speak. They did not have the power to speak. They did not have the power to write anything that went against these conservative, autocratic, despotic governments. But this is not to say all people could be completely suppressed by these conservative autocratic governments. Now there were many liberals, many educated members who were inspired by the ideas of the French Revolution. They wanted to bring about changes in the society. They wanted to get freedom from the autocratic government rules. But they found it difficult to do so because their agency was suppressed, because they did not have the authority or the power to go against the government, to speak and challenge the government. And so they now had to form secret societies in order to talk about their ideas, in order to discuss their ideas. Now secret societies came up in different places throughout Europe, and these were mostly founded by the liberals. Secret societies came up in places like Italy, Switzerland, and in these places the people were trying their best to spread their ideas of nationalism, of liberty, equality, fraternity, so as to be able to use and encourage the masses to overthrow the monarchical rule, to overthrow those autocratic governments. One such individual who founded a couple of secret societies and kept on inspiring people was Giuseppe Mazzini from Italy. Now Mazzini played a very crucial role in bringing about the revolution in Italy, about which we will be learning later on. But Mazzini posed a challenge which the government couldn't even imagine. The government in fact was threatened by the popularity of Mazzini and how he could continue spreading his ideas of bringing about freedom among the masses. Mazzini was of the opinion that it was a birthright, it was a God-given right to have individual nation states, to have independent nation states. So enduring the power influence of Mazzini was that Metternich branded or talked about Mazzini as one who was the most dangerous enemy of our social order, because he was posing a real threat to the social order that was founded on the suppression of people's voice and opinion, that was founded on the establishment of hierarchies in the society, in clutching all to traditional beliefs. With this, we come to an end of our discussion on how various conservative regimes came to power after Napoleon's defeat in 1815. We learned how many territorial adjustments were made. Prussia, Austria, Netherlands, Russia gained many new territories, and they were clearly on the winning side. France was on the losing side. France could not exert its political power at this point of time because of its erstwhile dictatorial regime under Napoleon. But during this time, not all people could be threatened completely. Not all people's voices could be taken away from them. There were many liberals like Mazzini who kept on spreading their ideas in order to bring about changes, in order to achieve freedom from the autocratic government systems. Having learnt about this, in our subsequent lessons, we will be focusing on the revolutions that broke out throughout Europe as a response to these conservative rules in several places. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon. You can also register for free at DeltaStep.com or download the DeltaStep app to learn one-to-one with our amazing teachers or to get access to all our 5,000 plus amazing videos as per your school syllabus. Master each topic with our adaptive practice technology. Get million+ questions with step-by-step solutions and unlimited mock tests. Get all your doubts resolved instantly. Learn via games and win amazing prizes like PlayStations and iPads. So at DeltaStep, learning is not just fun and easy, it's rewarding too. So register for free now.